Jose de Moro, on the northern coast of Peru, have uncovered numerous monumental tombs belonging to the priestesses of the Moche people. These burial sites are solidly constructed, located deep beneath the ground, built with multiple protective layers of earth and stone, and filled with a vast array of grave goods made of gold, silver, copper, ceramics, and finely woven textiles. Archaeologists have also discovered ritual objects used in sacrificial ceremonies, including cups for holding liquids and various ceremonial instruments. Analysis of the skeletal remains found within these tombs shows that the Moche priestesses belonged to the upper echelons of society. They enjoyed Archaeological explorations have recorded a wealth of ancient sites stretching from once bustling cities and transportation canals to cemeteries and unique religious monuments. Let's take a closer look at these remarkable discoveries in today's video. Moche priestesses. Since 1991, excavations at San Jose de Moro, on the northern coast of Peru, have uncovered numerous monumental tombs belonging to the priestesses of the Moche people. These burial sites are solidly constructed, located deep beneath the ground, built with multiple protective layers of earth and stone, and filled with a vast array of grave goods made of gold, silver, copper, ceramics, and finely woven textiles. Archaeologists have also discovered ritual objects used in sacrificial ceremonies, including cups for holding liquids and various ceremonial instruments. Analysis of the skeletal remains found within these tombs shows that the Moche priestesses belonged to the upper echelons of society. They enjoyed excellent nutrition and were laid to rest in luxurious garments. One striking detail is that their burials are frequently surrounded by the remains of sacrificial victims. This clearly indicates that human sacrifice was a central element of Moche religious life, with the priestesses themselves serving as the primary organizers and conductors of these rituals. Many of the ceramics and grave goods are decorated with images of priestesses depicted alongside scenes of sacrifice and bloodletting ceremonies. Recent studies have revealed that these priestesses also held positions of social leadership and played influential roles in making economic and political decisions within their communities. The wealth of burial offerings, the impressive scale of the tomb architecture, and the sheer number of such graves all point to the priestesses' real and substantial power, surpassing even that of the traditional male elite in Moche society. The discovery of these tombs has significantly altered our understanding of gender roles, power dynamics, and religious practices within the Moche civilization, opening up new avenues for research into the evolution of social structures in the Andes prior to the rise of the Inca. These archaeological traces stand as proof of a civilization that was once remarkably complex, and one that still guards many mysteries yet to be unraveled. Avebury. The Avebury Stone Circle. The Avebury Stone Circle is located in southern England, about 32 kilometers from Stonehenge. Although it is not as famous as Stonehenge, Avebury actually boasts a much larger scale and a more complex structure than any other prehistoric stone circle ever discovered in Europe. This vast complex measures nearly 430 meters in diameter and consists of 3 main circles, with massive stones arranged in multiple layers across an area of more than 11 hectares. Some of the remaining stones stand over 6 meters tall, each weighing an estimated several dozen tons, clear evidence of the remarkable stone-moving and construction techniques achieved by ancient people at this site. According to analyses from excavations carried out during the 20th century, the Avebury Stone Circle dates back to around 2600 BCE, placing it firmly in the Neolithic era. Archaeological traces found on site indicate that Avebury once served as a ceremonial center for centuries, with its construction unfolding in several distinct phases, constantly being supplemented and expanded. Modern geological studies have uncovered signs of ancient quarrying, as well as ditches and trenches dug to encircle each of the various circles. However, the exact purpose of these structures remains unclear. Some theories propose that Avebury was once a site for religious rituals or communal festivals held by the local population. In addition, the alignment of the stones with astronomical phenomena such as solar and lunar cycles continues to be the focus of ongoing archaeological research. Compared to Stonehenge, the Avebury complex has been far less affected by tourism and restoration activities. This has allowed its archaeological features to remain largely intact, providing invaluable opportunities for in-depth research into Neolithic stone construction techniques in Britain. To this day, scholars have yet to reach a consensus regarding the role, meaning, or methods used to build this monument. The question of how these enormous stones were transported and arranged across such a vast plain and the true purpose behind the existence of the entire Avebury stone circle remain hotly debated topics within the international archaeological community. Vindolanda Fort. Located south of Hadrian's Wall, Vindolanda Fort is one of the most important Roman military bases ever constructed in northern England. It served as a vital link between the Roman army and these far-flung lands, a place where every brick and every shard of pottery still bears witness to the history of a defensive system that spanned centuries. When archaeologists began excavating here, they uncovered layer upon layer of ruins, each representing different phases of construction, destruction, and rebuilding, all under the control of various military units. Beneath the cold earth lay a treasure trove of artifacts ranging from sandals and armor to broken pottery, and, most notably, small wooden tablets containing handwritten letters, reports, and diaries. These are rare records that offer a vivid glimpse into the daily lives, work routines, and personal relationships of the Roman soldiers once stationed at Vindolanda. The tablets contain everything from messages sent to family members and supply lists to birthday party invitations, revealing a surprisingly ordinary side of life within the strict confines of military discipline. Ancient graffiti also appears on the stone walls, drawings, words, symbols, and even taunts, forming a continuous thread of informal communication across many generations of soldiers. These markings provide the clearest evidence of individual personalities, emotions, and even humor among people who lived thousands of years ago. Vindolanda is not merely an abandoned fortress, but a living archive, where scientists can follow even the smallest clues to reconstruct the military, cultural, and social history of Roman Britain. From its days as a remote outpost on the edge of the empire, Vindolanda has become an essential landmark in discussions of the past and legacy of Roman civilization in Europe. Madain Salih, Hegra, the lost stone city of the Arabian desert. If you have always thought Petra was the only grand rock-cut legacy of the Nabateans, the northern desert of Saudi Arabia may prompt you to reconsider. Here lies Madain Salih, also known as Hegra, a city that has quietly endured for thousands of years as a forgotten page of history. Hegra was once a crucial stop along the ancient incense trade route. As caravans of camels crossed the harsh desert, Hegra served as a hub where traders exchanged goods and prepared for journeys onward to powerful empires like Rome, Egypt, and Phoenicia. Remnants of a once thriving metropolis still remain. Burial sites carved directly into cliffs, intricate water wells, and hundreds of stone structures arranged with scientific precision throughout the area. Yet the greatest mystery remains unsolved. How did the Nabateans manage to build such colossal tombs, intricately carved into hard rock, right in the middle of one of the world's most unforgiving climates? The rock carvings, symbols, and ancient scripts found here not only testify to a once prosperous civilization, but also invite speculation about religious beliefs, views on death, and even the social roles of women in Nabatean society. The turning point came when Rome extended its influence into the Arabian Peninsula. Hegra lost its strategic position, trade routes shifted, and the city was eventually abandoned. For nearly 2 millennia since, Hegra has lain dormant beneath layers of sand and time, becoming one of the most well-preserved ghost cities of the ancient world. In recent years, as Saudi Arabia has gradually opened its doors to tourism and archaeology, Madain Salih has begun to reveal the secrets it has guarded since the Nabatean era. The question remains, will modern research finally unlock the mysteries of Hegra's society, religion, and technology, or will this city forever remain an unfinished chapter in the history of the Middle East? Agartha, the mysterious city inside the earth. Agartha is a topic that appears in many international legends, often described as a city or kingdom existing within the earth itself. According to popular descriptions, Agartha lies within a hollow earth connected to the surface through networks of caves or tunnels stretching across various points around the world. The concept of a hollow earth began to appear in Western literature in the 17th century. Some scholars, such as Edmund Halley, proposed that our planet was composed of several concentric spherical layers, each with its own interior space. Later works expanded on this idea, suggesting the existence of a city or a vast civilization at the center of the Earth with its own climate, unique flora and fauna, and even inhabitants of extraordinary size compared to those living on the surface. Modern science, relying on geological, seismic, magnetic, and deep drilling evidence, shows that most of Earth's volume consists of solid crust, mantle, and a metallic core, leaving no hollow spaces large enough to contain a city, as described in these legends. Nevertheless, the theory of Agartha continues to persist in popular culture, closely linked to tales of lost civilizations, giant creatures, and the possible origins of unexplained phenomena observed on the Earth's surface. Certain natural sites, such as vast cave systems, giant volcanic craters, or remote, unexplored regions, are sometimes associated with legends about the gateways to Agartha. Although there is no scientifically validated evidence, the topic of Agartha remains a source of inspiration for pseudoscientific research, adventure novels, and ongoing debates about the possibility of underground civilizations. Ellora Caves, India. The Ellora Cave Complex, located in Maharashtra, was formed between the 5th and 10th centuries. The site contains 34 caves carved directly into basalt cliffs, representing 3 major religious traditions: Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain. The structures showcase a remarkable diversity in religious architecture and the technique of direct stone excavation, marking a significant achievement in the history of Indian monolithic construction. The Buddhist caves include monasteries, lecture halls, and Chaktiya prayer halls, with reliefs depicting various episodes from the Buddha's life. Cave 10 is a prime example of the traditional Chaktiya design, featuring a vaulted ceiling and interior columns. The Hindu group features massive monolithic temples, most notably the Kailasa cave, which was carved from the top down by removing excess stone, covering an area of nearly 2,800 square meters and rising 32 meters high. It was modeled after Mount Kailash in Hindu mythology. The intricate reliefs and statues of Shiva, Vishnu, Durga, and Parvati reflect the ancient Hindu belief system. The Jain caves, concentrated at the northern end, contain shrines and meditation halls, with figures of Tirthankaras sculpted directly into the rock faces. The Ellora complex stands as evidence of the coexistence of diverse religious sects, while also providing invaluable archaeological insight into labor organization, stone construction techniques, hard stone carving methods, and social changes during the post-Gupta and Rashtrakuta periods. Geological studies have determined that the bedrock at Ellora is basalt, which facilitated large-scale monolithic excavation. Archaeological data show that quarrying, stonework, and material transport were highly organized and continuous over many centuries. In 1983, Ellora was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and today it remains a center of archaeological, historical, and conservation research. The Chatata Wall, the mystery of Tennessee. In Tennessee, a stone wall nearly 400 meters long was discovered, becoming a subject of ongoing research and debate among archaeologists and scholars of North American ancient history. This wall lies deep beneath cultivated land, constructed from stacked stone blocks, stretching continuously across the local terrain. The uniqueness of the Chatata Wall lies not only in its scale, but also in the strange characters inscribed on some of the stones. The origins of these characters, their writing, system, and language remain unidentified, leading to numerous theories about the wall's creators and original purpose. Some researchers believe it was built by ancient indigenous groups in the southeastern United States, possibly linked to prehistoric cultures that once thrived in the area. Others, pointing to the peculiar characteristics of the inscriptions, have even suggested contact or influence from more distant civilizations, including the hypothesis of ancient Jewish presence. To date, there is no direct archaeological or historical evidence definitively identifying the wall's builders or its function. Analyses suggest it could have served as a boundary marker, ritual site, or for trade, but debates regarding the inscriptions and possible origins are ongoing. The existence of the Chatata Wall has broadened the scope of research into the development of early communities in America and highlights the many remaining gaps in our understanding of pre-Columbian history in this region. Lovelock Cave, United States. Lovelock Cave, located in Nevada, is closely associated with Paiute legends about a tribe of giants known as the Sitekar. According to local oral tradition, the Sitekar were enemies of the Paiute and were said to have vanished after a great battle in this cave. In the early 20th century, archaeologists excavated Lovelock Cave and discovered thousands of artifacts dating back approximately 2,000 years, including weapons, tools, baskets, shoes, and various human skeletal remains. Some reports described unusually long bones, but subsequent studies determined that most of the remains were within the normal size range for ancient people in the area. Archaeological evidence shows that Lovelock Cave was inhabited by a prehistoric community for thousands of years. Genetic data and anthropological analysis have found no evidence for the existence of a race of giants. The artifacts recovered have helped reconstruct the material life, customs, and survival techniques of indigenous tribes in the ancient American West. The intersection of local legend and scientific findings at Lovelock Cave illustrates the interplay between indigenous collective memory and the evidence uncovered by archaeology. Etruscan haruspex, divination customs of the Etruscans. In ancient central Italy, the Etruscan community developed a religious system in which the priestly group known as the haruspex held a specialized role in performing divination rituals. Their primary practice centered on analyzing the shapes and characteristics of animal entrails, most often the livers of sheep or cattle following sacrificial ceremonies. Marks, veins, and structures found on the organs were carefully recorded and compared against a body of interpretive signals passed down through generations, in order to forecast natural events, wars, harvests, or political decisions. This practice, known as haruspicina, functioned as a tool for managing social risk and guiding collective policy. Information provided by the haruspex was considered valuable during decision-making, particularly on matters concerning state rituals, military campaigns, or the construction of public works. The data underpinning this practice included bronze models shaped like livers, inscribed instructional tablets, and a specialized vocabulary system for omens and portents. Following the cultural assimilation that took place when Rome expanded its control over Etruria, haruspicina continued to exist, but its importance gradually diminished, shifting to a supporting role for the Roman augur system. Some haruspices remained as advisors to the ruling elite, but over time, these rituals came to hold mostly symbolic meaning. Archaeological finds, such as the Piacenza liver inscription, provide valuable information on the structure of the organs used in divination, along with detailed descriptions of the ceremonial process. These discoveries help clarify the complexity of Etruscan religious knowledge and forecasting methods. Comparative research between Etruscan texts and Roman sources documents the transition of the haruspex from a central religious figure to a more secondary role as Mediterranean power structures and social dynamics evolved. The city under Death Valley, United States. The legend of a city buried beneath Death Valley began with stories that circulated during the 1930s. According to various accounts, two men, while working as miners, accidentally stumbled upon an underground cave network that led to vast chambers believed to be the remains of an ancient city. Details from these tales include the discovery of giant human skeletons, a maze of winding passages, and artifacts resembling those from ancient Egyptian civilization. Several local newspapers in California and Nevada published reports on the event at the time, capturing the attention of amateur archaeologists. However, to date, professional archaeological investigations have yet to uncover any physical evidence verifying the existence of an underground city or any remains related to giants beneath Death Valley. No official excavation results or reports have been released, confirming the discovery of archaeologically significant artifacts. Geological surveys in the area have identified only natural cave systems, with no evidence of large-scale man-made structures. Experts note that this legend shares many characteristics with other stories of mysterious cities or races of giants found throughout North America, reflecting a blend of folk imagination and unverified information that has spread through popular media. To this day, the city under Death Valley remains a topic of fascination and a classic example of a modern legend that has yet to be substantiated by archaeological fieldwork. Old Kenzorsk, cave city of Armenia. Old Kenzorsk is a sprawling cave city built along a mountain gorge in Armenia, once home to thousands of people over many centuries. The settlement consists of hundreds of caves carved into the rock face, forming clusters of dwellings, schools, churches, and workshops, a testament to a society ingeniously adapted to the harsh mountain landscape. Each cave varies in size and function, tailored to the needs of individual families or groups of residents. During the 17th and 18th centuries, Old Kenzorsk reached its peak population, with over 8,000 inhabitants living primarily by farming, livestock breeding, and crafts. The stone infrastructure included ventilation systems, pathways linking residential clusters, storage areas for food, and communal living spaces. The city also boasted cheese-making workshops, blacksmiths, and religious structures, indicating a high level of social and technological development. The processes of urbanization and government resettlement policies in the 20th century eventually led to the departure of Old Kenzorsk's residents. In 1958, authorities relocated the last families in an effort to move them to more modern settlements. After abandonment, many caves deteriorated due to weathering and lack of maintenance, but nearly 2,000 caves still exist today. Currently, part of Old Kenzorsk is the focus of archaeological research and has been designated a protected national heritage site. some caves have been restored for tourism and educational purposes. The study of its structure, social organization, and strategies for environmental adaptation is now providing valuable data on the history of human settlement in the challenging natural conditions of the Caucasus region. The Book of Abramelin, ancient European magic manuscript. The Book of Abramelin is a manuscript believed to record the magical experiences of a German scholar in the 14th century, based on his real-life journeys to Egypt and the Mediterranean. The content of the book focuses on rituals, invocations, and methods for summoning spiritual entities, along with processes for purifying oneself before performing these rites. Throughout the manuscript, one finds systems of symbols, charts, magical words, and detailed instructions for preparing ceremonial space. The Book of Abramelin not only preserves medieval magical techniques, but also presents concepts of interacting with supernatural beings and the influence of unseen forces on human life. This work went on to exert a profound impact on European occult traditions, especially mystical movements of the 19th and 20th centuries, such as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, groups practicing ritual Kabbalah, and scholars studying Western magic. Beyond its historical and cultural aspects, the Book of Abramelin is a subject of analysis among scholars of religious studies, textual criticism, and the history of ideas, with ongoing debates about its true origins, the authenticity of its content, and its role in the development of magical systems in early modern Europe. Modern translations and academic interpretations continue to broaden the influence of this work within contemporary esoteric communities worldwide. Settlement of Xol, newly discovered Maya site, Mexico. The Xol site, identified as a newly discovered Maya city near Mérida in Yucatan, has expanded our knowledge of ancient urban networks in Central America. Stratigraphic surveys indicate that Xol was primarily inhabited from the 7th to the 9th centuries, contemporaneous with other major Maya centers in the region, though it displays unique features in terms of social and economic organization. Archaeological research at Xol has uncovered numerous stone architectural remains, most notably the presence of volcanic materials sourced from Guatemala. The use of these stones in construction reveals that the inhabitants of Xol participated in a large-scale transport system connecting with distant regions of raw material production. The movement of materials across vast distances points to a highly organized network of trade and logistics, confirming Xol's role as an important transit hub within the Maya urban chain. In addition to the material transport infrastructure, archaeologists have discovered multiple burial sites containing ritual objects reflecting the religious and social customs of the Maya. Analysis of cultural layers and burial structures provides further evidence for the diversity of community organization and social rituals. The collapse of Xol's urban system coincided with the broader decline of Maya civilization around the 10th century. Archaeological data reveal clear signs of severe drought, combined with social upheaval and resource depletion, as the main reasons for the abandonment of this settlement. The discovery of Xol contributes to a deeper understanding of the movement, development, and decline of ancient urban centers in Mesoamerica, broadening our insight into the economic, environmental, and social dynamics of Maya history. Genetic entropy, the decline of genetics and human lifespan over time. The theory of genetic entropy was proposed to explain the phenomenon of the average human lifespan continuously decreasing over successive generations, particularly from ancient times to the modern era. According to accounts in the Bible as well as many ancient legends, the earliest generations after the Great Flood, such as Adam or Noah, were said to live for hundreds or even nearly 1,000 years. However, the generations that followed witnessed a marked decline in longevity, until the average human lifespan eventually settled at just 70 to 80 years as it is today. The scientific foundation of this hypothesis is based on the accumulation of genetic mutations in the human genome. In the earliest generations, the human genetic code remained intact and was relatively untouched by harmful mutations. As environmental conditions changed, combined with population bottlenecks caused by major events like the Great Flood, the ability to eliminate unfavorable mutations through natural selection gradually diminished. As a result, the number of deleterious genetic changes increased with each generation, causing a decline in physiological function and immune resistance. Modern genetic research shows that most mutations are either harmful or neutral to the individual, with only a small percentage providing any real benefit. When the rate of mutation accumulation exceeds the purging capacity of natural selection, the genetic quality of the population is compromised, leading to reduced lifespan, increased disease risk, and diminished ability to adapt to environmental changes. This is a key issue in the study of hereditary diseases, cancer, and declining gene quality in animal populations with small numbers. However, up to now, archaeological and genetic analysis have not fully confirmed the genetic entropy hypothesis at the scale of the human species. Most scientists believe that lifespan is still strongly influenced by factors such as environment, nutrition, medicine, and social conditions. Nevertheless, the theory of genetic entropy continues to raise compelling questions about long-term evolution, the ability of genes to self-repair, and the natural limits on the extension of human longevity. Caves of the Canary Islands. On the island of Gran Canaria in the Canary Islands, the Cenobio de Valerón cave complex stands as one of the largest and most enigmatic archaeological sites in the Atlantic region. This network consists of more than 350 man-made rock chambers carved into volcanic cliffs, arranged in tiers and interconnected by narrow passageways. Geological surveys show that constructing such a system would have required a large workforce over an extended period, utilizing advanced stoneworking techniques and efficient spatial planning for long-term use. As early as the 15th century, Spanish records noted the existence of these caves and attached various theories to their purpose. Initially, Spanish colonists believed the caves to be monasteries or isolation quarters for native noblewomen before marriage. However, modern archaeological research has thoroughly disproven these ideas. Analysis of organic residues and remaining artifacts has clearly identified the chambers as ancient granaries. The layout of the rock compartments, tool marks, and layers of plant sediment all indicate that these spaces were used for storing cereals, primarily barley and millet, by the indigenous people before the colonial era. Pollen samples and organic remains from the floors of these chambers have established that their use for storage lasted continuously from the 7th to the 15th century. Utilizing cliffside terrain for food preservation prevented pest infestation, maintained stable temperature and humidity, and optimized storage space on an island with limited arable land. The construction of such a large-scale complex as Cenobio de Valerón reveals a well-developed social structure, with collective organization of labor and resource management. In contrast to earlier misconceptions by Spanish colonists, recent findings have clarified the essential role the Canary Cave complexes played in the economic and cultural life of the island's original inhabitants. These structures stand as a testament to food storage technology, social organization, and the adaptability of the Gran Canaria people before conquest. Today, Cenobio de Valerón remains an important topic of research, contributing to our understanding of pre-colonial economic and social systems in the Canary Islands. Saqqara Mummies, Egypt. The Saqqara necropolis remains one of Egypt's most important archaeological sites, with many new discoveries in recent years. Excavations near the Step Pyramid have unearthed hundreds of wooden coffins containing mummies, along with numerous objects associated with ancient Egyptian ritual and religious practice. These coffins date to the late period and were interred in stacked layers within deep burial shafts. In addition to the mummies, archaeologists have discovered a large number of bronze statues, primarily depicting gods such as Anubis, Osiris, Bastet, and Hathor, as well as figures of pharaohs and members of the nobility. Many of these statues display detailed representations of costumes, religious rituals, and the social roles of the individuals depicted, providing rich material for understanding Egyptian art and belief across different dynasties. Ancient musical instruments, including sistrums, drums, and bells, have also been found at the site. Their presence underscores the role of music in religious ceremonies and funerary rituals. Furthermore, papyrus manuscripts and wooden tablets inscribed with religious texts, spells, and excerpts from the Book of the Dead shed new light on Egyptian concepts of the afterlife. The discovery of such a large number of mummies and artifacts at Saqqara is helping researchers gain deeper insights into the social structure, religious roles, and funerary art of ancient Egypt, while also adding valuable data on history, customs, and spiritual life spanning many centuries. Mantle Site, large indigenous city in Canada. The Mantle Site has been identified as one of the largest indigenous urban centers in North America prior to European arrival. This archaeological area, located near Lake Ontario, dates to the early 16th century. Excavations have uncovered evidence of nearly 100 longhouses, defensive palisades, and functional spaces such as communal kitchens, food storage areas, and ceremonial gathering sites. The urban structure at Mantle Site reflects the development of a settled agricultural society. Residents constructed buildings from wood, implemented simple sanitation systems, and created communal living areas. The abundance of longhouse remains suggests a population of up to 2,000 people, with families living together in large groups, coordinating production and protecting one another. Archaeologists have recovered a wealth of artifacts, including stone tools, pottery, arrowheads, personal ornaments, and objects made from bone. Additionally, evidence of cultivated crops such as corn, beans, and squash demonstrates that agriculture was the cornerstone of this society's economy. The discovery of exotic materials such as copper, shells, and items from distant regions shows that Mantle Site once served as a major hub in a far-reaching trade network. Through successive excavations, Mantle Site has come to be seen as clear evidence of the social organization and cultural sophistication of North American indigenous communities prior to European contact. The findings have helped reshape our understanding of the complexity and achievements of ancient societies in this region. Haunted Scottish Village. In the northern region of Scotland, an old traditional village still remains, now reduced to ruins, with many of its stone structures either collapsed or overtaken by vegetation. The village was once home to a thriving community from the 15th century, as documented in civil records up until the mid-19th century, when the population sharply declined and eventually the village was completely abandoned. The remnants include house foundations, stone walls, pathways, and several architectural features typical of the Scottish countryside. The village is closely associated with local folklore about a seer who once lived there, believed by the community to have the ability to predict future events. According to oral tradition, this seer made several prophecies regarding the development of technology, transportation, and social changes in the area. Stories of her presence lingering after death, along with strange phenomena reported in the village, have given this site a special reputation in Scottish folk culture. Studies of the physical remains and archival documents reveal that the village once existed as a self-sufficient community engaged in small-scale agriculture and livestock farming. Its current state is preserved as a heritage survey site and serves as a subject for interdisciplinary research projects examining changes in social structure and the phenomenon of rural depopulation in modern Scotland. The legend of the seer and other supernatural elements continue to be preserved through heritage conservation projects and local cultural studies. The immortal Welwitschia plant. Welwitschia, a plant native to the Namib Desert in southern Africa, is renowned for its extraordinary ability to survive for thousands of years under extreme environmental conditions. This species is unique in that it develops only 2 leaves during its entire lifetime. These 2 leaves continue to grow without ever falling off, gradually extending as they are subjected to the effects of wind, sand, and scorching heat. Recent genetic studies have shed light on the mechanisms that enable Welwitschia to sustain such longevity. About 86 million years ago, Welwitschia's genome underwent a whole genome duplication event, a rare occurrence in plant evolution. This duplication significantly increased the size of the genome and led to the accumulation of repetitive, non-functional DNA sequences known as retrotransposons. Such genetic excess requires Welwitschia to expend considerable energy to maintain. But around 1 to 2 million years ago, as the desert environment became increasingly arid, Welwitschia developed the ability to methylate its DNA and deactivate most of these surplus genetic sequences. This methylation process helped reduce the genetic energy burden and stabilize the genome, enabling the plant to better adapt to scarce resources. Additionally, Welwitschia's physiological structure contributes to its long-term survival. Its extensive, deep root system allows it to access groundwater efficiently, while its leaf tissue cells are capable of retaining water for prolonged periods. The leaves do not fall but are gradually worn down over time, demonstrating a strategy of conserving energy and minimizing nutrient loss. Today, Welwitschia is considered an important subject in evolutionary biology and plant genetics because its long-term adaptability may provide valuable data for research on agriculture in arid climates. By analyzing Welwitschia's genetic and physiological adaptations, scientists can gain insights into plant survival strategies in extreme ecosystems and may discover new ways to improve crop resilience to future climate change. Pompeii Human Genome. In 79 AD, the city of Pompeii was buried beneath thick layers of ash after the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Archaeologists have excavated hundreds of skeletons from the ruins of this city, providing invaluable data for the study of ancient genetics. Thanks to advances in DNA sequencing technology, scientists have successfully extracted DNA from the bones of victims, including one individual with an almost complete genome. Using whole genome analysis, researchers compared the genetic data of ancient Pompeians with that of modern populations in Italy and the Mediterranean region. The The results revealed clear genetic similarities between first-century Pompeii inhabitants and present-day Italians, while also identifying unique genetic variants that reflect the mixing of many communities in the area. Some ancestral markers show the influence of neighboring groups and highlight the role of ancient migration in shaping the region's genetic makeup. Beyond tracing ancestry, genetic analysis also provides information on the health traits, disease markers, and biological characteristics of Pompeii's ancient residents. The genetic sequences can identify risks for infectious diseases, rare genetic disorders, and some morphological traits characteristic of ancient populations. The research on the genome of Pompeii's remains broadens our understanding of the genetic structure of Italians during the Roman era, offering scientific grounds for comparison with contemporary populations throughout the region. The collected genetic data will continue to enrich the global archive of ancient DNA, laying the foundation for interdisciplinary studies in anthropology, evolutionary medicine, and the history of disease among long-lost communities. Nalanda University, India. Nalanda University is recognized as one of the oldest and most extensive centers of education in the history of ancient India. Located in what is now Bihar, Nalanda was established and developed from the 5th century, attracting scholars from many regions across Asia, such as Tibet, China, Persia, and Greece. Here, its library system, research institutes, and residential quarters for thousands of scholars and monks were all organized into a vast complex with multiple layers of architecture supporting academic activity that persisted for centuries. The fields taught at Nalanda included philosophy, logic, medicine, mathematics, astronomy, linguistics, and the natural sciences. The compilation, copying, and storage of texts created a massive repository of knowledge, greatly influencing schools of thought and scholarship in India, as well as across ancient Asia. The academic organization and the process of knowledge verification at Nalanda are viewed by many modern historians as the foundation for the university model in South Asia. In 1193, Nalanda was attacked by Turkish invaders. Its library and lecture halls were destroyed, and many scholars either perished or were forced into exile. This event marked the end of a brilliant era of knowledge and the closure of one of the region's most important educational centers. The remaining ruins at Nalanda today stand as evidence of its role as an ancient center of learning and provide crucial archaeological material for studying the history of Indian civilization and education. Archaeological discoveries at Nalanda, including its complex architecture, inscriptions, relics, and document preservation systems, continue to shed light on the social and academic structures of Nalanda and its widespread influence on the course of Indian and Asian history. Archaeological data combined with historical records from various sources are helping reconstruct the image of an academic center that played a key role in the development of philosophy, religion, and science across East Asia. Hall of Records, the legendary library beneath the Sphinx, Egypt. According to legend, a secret library called the Hall of Records lies beneath the feet of the Great Sphinx of Giza, said to hold ancient manuscripts on mathematics, astronomy, medicine, magic, and the sacred knowledge of Eastern civilizations. This legend originates from ancient texts and mystical documents from the Hellenistic era, and it later spread widely through Western speculative literature and esoteric writings. Generations of researchers, archaeologists, and mystical scholars have been fascinated by the possibility of such a library existing beneath the limestone plateau of Giza. Some modern theories suggest there could be corridors or underground spaces near the Sphinx, but to date, geophysical surveys and exploratory drilling have only identified certain geological anomalies. None have confirmed the existence of any structure that might be an ancient archive. Despite the lack of archaeological evidence, the Hall of Records remains the subject of interdisciplinary research into the relationship between ancient knowledge, Egyptian religion, and their influence on later schools of philosophy. The image of a hidden library beneath the Sphinx is also closely linked to ideas about the transmission of knowledge across generations and the safeguarding of crucial information in human history. Continued exploration of the Giza area is expected to provide more scientific data about subterranean architecture and the possible existence of unexplored spaces, which could help clarify the legends surrounding the Hall of Records and the legacy of ancient wisdom. Guaju Caves, China. The Guaju Cave Complex is located in a canyon near Beijing and is one of the largest cave cities ever discovered in China, covering nearly 25 acres. The structure consists of 117 large and small chambers carved directly into steep cliff faces, forming a network of interconnected spaces at various heights. Inside the caves remain traces of hearths, lamp hooks, windows, supporting stone columns, and various functional rooms, all reflecting the communal organization and social hierarchy of the ancient residents. Archaeological evidence indicates that each cave could house one or several families, while the largest caves at the top, often centrally located, were more complex and likely served as dwellings for leaders or privileged groups. The even distribution and interconnection of the chambers suggest a settled community with highly cooperative labor organization. However, the origin of the cave complex is still disputed. There are no historical records specifying when the Gwaju caves were built or their original purpose. Main theories focus on the possibility that it served as a refuge for communities during natural disasters or conflict, or that it was a residential area exploiting the natural terrain to access local resources. Beyond habitation, traces of ritual activity in some caves suggest a religious or special social function. Geological, archaeological, and material analysis studies continue at Gwaju to determine the age and scale of the community that once lived there, as well as to unravel the mysteries behind the social organization and motivations that led to the creation of such a large cave city in the northern mountains of China. The builders of the Egyptian Sphinx. Some modern scientific theories propose that the Sphinx at Giza may have been constructed far earlier than traditional accounts suggest. Geological studies of the Sphinx's limestone surface have revealed vertical erosion patterns, primarily caused by prolonged rainfall and a humid climate quite different from the wind, or sand-driven erosion found on other monuments in the area. Based on these findings, many experts believe the Sphinx may be at least 7,000 years old, predating even the largest pyramids at Giza. This raises questions about the true creators of the monument, as the flourishing ancient Egyptian society recorded in history emerged only about 4,500 years ago. If this theory is correct, the Sphinx could be the work of a much older, as yet unknown civilization that existed before the rise of the Egyptians who built the pyramids. The question of the Sphinx's age and origins remains controversial in academic circles, due to the absence of definitive written or archaeological evidence from the proposed era of its construction. Nonetheless, the indications of rain erosion continue to be an important clue in reassessing the history of the Giza Plateau and the possible existence of prehistoric civilizations that have not yet been clearly identified. Geometry of Stonehenge builders. England. Stonehenge, the iconic monument from Britain's Neolithic era, has captivated generations of researchers with questions about its construction methods and the geometric meaning behind its design. Modern archaeological studies and surveys reveal that prehistoric builders applied advanced geometric knowledge in planning and executing the monument, even though no written records remain. One of the most important discoveries is the 56-sided polygonal layout of the Aubrey Hole Circle, creating an almost perfectly round circumference with remarkable precision. The identification and placement of these points required skills in dividing circles, determining equal distances, and establishing fixed reference markers on the ground. This technique demonstrates a clear understanding of basic geometric principles such as diameter, radius, equal division of angles, and circumference. Additionally, the positions of the large standing stones were chosen to align with astronomical events like the solstices, proving that spatial geometry and astronomy were combined during construction. Other features such as the smaller stone circles, deep ditches, and peripheral stone markers were also arranged according to repeating geometric rules, helping to determine orientation, observation points, and the ceremonial meaning of the entire site. Analysis of archaeological tools suggests that builders used ropes, wooden stakes, and manual measuring tools to transfer geometric designs onto the landscape. From the remains and comparisons with contemporary monuments, researchers theorize that the geometric skills of Stonehenge's builders developed through a long process of experimentation, accumulation, and intergenerational teaching. The evidence shows that constructing Stonehenge was not an isolated event, but the culmination of an architectural tradition combining geometry, astronomical observation, and religious ritual in ancient Britain. This reflects the complexity and high level of social organization among prehistoric communities, while raising new questions about the origins of their knowledge and learning methods. Blowing Cave, Arkansas, USA. Blowing Cave in Arkansas is known through local tales about a deep cave system that has never been fully explored. The site attracts public fascination with legends about an entrance to an underground world inhabited by extraordinary beings, often described as giants or mysterious, unidentified people. According to written accounts and stories, unofficial expeditions into Blowing Cave began in the early 20th century. Some local explorers and adventurers claim to have discovered long corridors winding deep into the earth, with complex branches and large chambers inside. Certain sources have even speculated about passages descending to deeper levels, but no maps or scientific surveys have ever verified these claims. Local legends suggest that within the cave might be a gateway to a vast subterranean world inhabited by beings physically different from modern humans, usually described as extremely tall, with features unlike any known Native American groups. These theories are often tied to beliefs about lost prehistoric civilizations or mysterious races for which there is no archaeological evidence. To date, Blowing Cave has not been excavated or systematically surveyed by major scientific organizations. Most information comes from private expeditions or non-mainstream magazine articles. Mainstream archaeologists and geologists have not confirmed the existence of any artifacts, habitation traces, or structures indicating a community of giants or a network of underground cities related to Blowing Cave. Guabo de Turalba, Ancient City, Costa Rica. Guabo de Turalba is an archaeological site located in the rainforests of Costa Rica, once a major urban and agricultural center in Central America before European arrival. The city's remains show the development of an economy based on agriculture and land management. Archaeological finds here include stone foundations, irrigation channels, farming tools, and ceramic and stone objects, all evidence of high levels of production and trade within the ancient community. Archaeologists have determined that Guabo de Turalba once had a population numbering in the thousands, with a relatively complex social structure, reflected in its urban layout and evidence of collective activity. Signs of public works, food storage facilities, and ceremonial areas reveal that this place was a key center not only for the region's economy, but also for religion and politics. The city began to flourish around the start of the Common Era and remained a regional center until the 15th century, when it declined and was abandoned. Researchers have not yet identified the founders or rulers of Guabo de Turalba due to a lack of written records and local legends. The abandonment appears to have been sudden, leaving little evidence of social unrest or warfare. Currently, Guabo de Turalba is the subject of various interdisciplinary archaeological projects aimed at understanding urban development, the role of agriculture in regional history, and the sudden collapse of a major civilization that remains unnamed in Central American history. Hasmonean Farming Complex, Israel. The Hasmonean Farming Complex is an archaeological site in the Judea region of Israel, dating to the late Iron Age and the early Hasmonean period. Excavations have uncovered terraced fields, wells, reservoirs, and irrigation channels, reflecting the high level of agricultural organization and water management achieved by the people of this era. Traces of plowshares, sickles, grinding stones, grape presses, and storage pits for wine and olive oil demonstrate the diversity of agricultural production and food processing at the site. The cultural layers of the site document the transition between ancient dynasties, especially the transfer of power from the Seleucids to the Hasmoneans, as shown by architectural remains and evidence of agricultural activity. Coins and pottery bearing transitional styles have also been found here, indicating changes in administration and trade networks. This transition profoundly affected land organization, farming methods, and especially the transformation of ownership and resource distribution among different groups. Archaeological evidence also reveals the influence of taxation and agricultural property control in reshaping the local social structure during this period. Today, the Hasmonean Farming Complex is a valuable resource for studying the history of Mediterranean agriculture, the development of irrigation technology, and the impact of shifting political power on the ancient economic and social life of Israel. Romeo British Trading Center, Roman Britain. The archaeological site of the Romeo Trading Center has been identified as one of the most significant commercial hubs within the Roman territories on the island of Britain. Excavations have revealed the foundations of a large inn, where merchants, soldiers, and travelers would stop to exchange goods. The layout of residential quarters, storage areas, and service zones reflects the organization of lodging and transportation logistics along the major Roman roads. Within the site, evidence of a blacksmith's workshop, including tools, metal blanks, slag, and traces of a furnace, demonstrates the center's role in producing and repairing tools, weapons, and goods for both local trade and international commerce. Several religious structures were built adjacent to the commercial zone, most notably the remains of a small temple featuring brick and stonework, altars, and sacred statues, which stand as proof of the connection between economic activity and spiritual life in the community. Pottery, coins, and imported artifacts from the Mediterranean, continental Europe, and neighboring settlements discovered in the sediment layers point to the diversity of goods and the intensity of trade exchanges. Analysis of materials, architectural structures, and layers of organic remains, hearth charcoal, and metallurgical debris has helped determine the rhythm of use, repairs, and expansion of the center through different historical periods, especially from the 1st to the 4th centuries AD. Archaeological evidence reveals Romeo's role in the flow of goods between Rome and native British communities as a distribution center, logistics hub, and a place where local religious practices were maintained within a multicultural society during the Romanization of Britain. Netherworld of Mesopotamia. In the texts of Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon, the afterlife is depicted as a separate realm beneath the earth, where souls dwell after leaving the living world. Archaeological evidence, such as clay tablets, carved images, and funeral models, show that Mesopotamians envisioned the underworld, often called Kur or Irkalla, as a dim, lightless place. Souls entering this realm had to pass through gates, guarded by supernatural entities, and face judgment by gods such as Ereshkigal and Nergal. These beliefs shaped funerary rituals, burial goods, and prayers, which have been found in graves, clay figures, and ritual offerings. The structural elements of the netherworld were passed from Sumerian times to later cultures such as Akkad, Babylon, and Assyria, each introducing variations in imagery, symbols, and the roles of deities. Research into artifacts, texts, and decorative art reveals the continuous development of the Mesopotamian cosmological model and its powerful influence on the beliefs of Egypt, the Levant, and ancient Greece. Analysis of archaeological finds from major urban centers like Ur, Nippur, and Babylon confirms the central role of underworld beliefs in shaping social structures, value systems, and legal codes during this era. These discoveries help clarify how Mesopotamian communities applied their concepts of life and death to social management, the formation of religious institutions, and the evolution of thought in Western civilizations that followed. Scented sources, ancient fragrance rituals. In many ancient societies, fragrance played a vital role in spiritual life and ritual practice. In Egypt, scents were used in religious and magical ceremonies, linked to deities and communication with the afterlife. Ancient records show that Egyptians employed incense, aromatic resins, and oils during mummification, offerings, and even in traditional medical remedies. In Greece and Rome, the use of fragrance evolved with a wide range of applications. Ancient texts describe aromatics as indispensable for rituals, medicine, and everyday life. Various plants, flowers, and resins were processed to create perfumes, fragrant oils, and ritual incense. Scents appeared in prayers for blessings, exorcism rituals, and herbal treatments for illnesses. Written sources express the belief that fragrance could affect the mind, health, and connect humans with supernatural forces. In some cultures, scent was even seen as a medium for transmitting the will of the gods, a symbol of ritual purity and a vital ingredient in traditional remedies. Archaeological and chemical analysis has identified residual fragrance compounds on ancient artifacts, confirming the practical role of scent in ritual, religion, and ancient medicine throughout the Mediterranean. Alexandria's sunken treasures, Egypt. The port city of Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BC, played a central role in trade, culture, and politics in the Mediterranean during the Hellenistic and Roman eras. Since the late 20th century, numerous underwater archaeological projects have uncovered a wealth of submerged ruins around the ancient harbor, including shipwrecks, granite columns, pharaoh statues, limestone structures, and remnants of great temples like the Temple of Isis, as well as foundations related to Cleopatra's palace. Geological and sedimentary studies indicate that much of Alexandria's coastline was lowered by earthquakes and land subsidence from the 4th to the 8th centuries AD. Seismic aftershocks and tsunamis destroyed many coastal structures, submerging ports, palaces, and temples beneath the bay. Archaeological material recovered from the marine layers allows dating and provides evidence about port construction, maritime activity, and interregional economic and religious connections. The discovery of hundreds of artifacts such as statues, pottery jars, coins, animal skeletons, and personal belongings reflects the vibrant urban life and bustling trade that thrived in Alexandria for nearly a millennium. The submerged architectural components help partially reconstruct the scale and layout of the city's temples, harbors, and royal districts. Research continues to clarify the causes and timeline of submergence and to unlock Alexandria's role as a transcontinental crossroads in human history. Carlac Castle, Scotland. Carlac Castle is a rare triangular fortification in Scotland, built on geological terrain near a river to control inland transport routes. Archaeological studies have traced multiple phases of construction, with thick stone walls, watchtowers, and food storage facilities strategically arranged throughout the site. The surviving remains show that the castle supported continuous military operations, as evidenced by domestic artifacts, weapons, and foundations of nearby settlements. Historical records and stratigraphic analysis indicate that the area suffered from repeated severe flooding. Thick alluvial deposits around the wall bases and broken masonry, together with rapid soil erosion, gradually rendered the structure unstable. The decision to abandon Karlak Castle and shift the administrative center to higher ground reflects the local community's adaptation to climate and environmental changes in the river region. Archaeological data from episodes of rebuilding and resettlement demonstrate the direct effects of environmental change on defensive systems, settlement patterns, and social structures in medieval Scotland. Karlak Castle thus serves as valuable material for studying the impact of natural disasters on historical sites and offers insight into resource management, population, relocation, and defensive architecture in medieval Northern Europe. Necropants, Icelandic human, skin trousers. Necropants are an artifact from Icelandic folk beliefs associated with traditional magical rituals in the Nordic region. According to records at the Holmavik Museum of Witchcraft and several ancient manuscripts, the ritual of crafting necropants is believed to have originated in the 17th century, intended to bring financial fortune to the wearer. The creation ritual began with an agreement between two individuals, in which the ritualist was allowed to take the leg skin of the other after death. Once the chosen person died a natural death, the skin from the waist down would be removed in one piece, a process requiring considerable skill to keep the skin intact without tearing or puncturing it. The skin would then be processed and worn as a pair of trousers. The core of the ritual involved placing a metal coin and a piece of paper inscribed with runic spells into the groin of the necropants. Written records describe that the coin must be taken from the first poor person the ritualist encountered on the way home. Keeping all these conditions was said to be essential for the ritual's effectiveness, supposedly causing money to continually appear in the wearer's pocket until the pants were passed on or destroyed. Research on this tradition focuses on its magical function, social role, and symbolic meaning within Icelandic medieval beliefs. The transmission of the ritual through oral history and manuscripts reveals the intersection of magic and asset control within the community. Today, necropants are primarily found in folklore and museums, serving as a subject of study in ancient belief systems and the history of magic in Northern Europe. Santorini, Atlantis, the mystery of Atlantis and Santorini. Santorini is a volcanic island in the southern Aegean Sea, Greece. Around 1650 BCE, a massive volcanic eruption created a caldera and buried the island and surrounding coastal areas in ash. This event led to the collapse of Minoan settlement centers, disrupting economic activities, trade networks, and local social systems on Crete and neighboring islands. Archaeological evidence shows that the city of Akrotiri on Santorini was buried beneath thick volcanic ash, while sediment layers reveal a sudden shift in the local environment. In the 4th century BCE, Plato described Atlantis as an advanced society with a powerful navy that once waged war against Athens. He wrote that Atlantis sank into the sea during a massive geological catastrophe, but the details of its geographic location, timeline, and real nature remain hotly debated. The theory connecting Atlantis to the Santorini eruption is based on similarities in geological descriptions, architecture, and social scale between ancient texts and modern archaeological discoveries. Geological studies confirm that the Santorini eruption had a major impact on the Mediterranean, causing climate changes and the sudden decline of coastal cultures. Nevertheless, there is no direct evidence proving Atlantis was Santorini. Other theories propose Atlantis was a literary symbol or existed elsewhere, rather than as a historical entity. Currently, ongoing archaeological and geological projects on Santorini aim to clarify the relationships among natural disasters, the disappearance of ancient civilizations, and the rise of legends in human history. Santorini stands as a case study for how volcanic activity can shape the rise, fall, and cultural legacy of ancient societies in the Mediterranean. Timgad City, Algeria. The city of Timgad lies on the high plateau of northern Algeria, built at the end of the 1st century by Emperor Trajan to serve military purposes and control the trade corridor of Roman North Africa. Timgad's layout followed a typical grid plan, with perpendicular streets, a central forum, public baths, a library, a theatre, and stratified residential quarters. Archaeological excavations since the 19th century have uncovered multiple layers of limestone architecture, underground water and sewage systems, and both religious and civic structures, making Timgad one of the best preserved Roman urban models in the Mediterranean outside Europe. Archaeological and textual sources confirm that Timgad's population flourished during the first 2 centuries AD, establishing the city as a major administrative, military, and economic center. Commerce, agriculture, and crafts were organized under the patronage of powerful families and local authorities, contributing to the stability of urban society. By the 5th century, Timgad began to decline due to political instability, religious conflicts, pressure from Berber nomadic tribes, and the expansion of non-Roman powers. The city was gradually destroyed during these conflicts and ultimately abandoned in the early 7th century after Arab control of the region. The ruins that remain, with their street network, public buildings, and residential foundations, provide a valuable urban archetype for studying Romanization in North Africa and the transformation of settlement centers through different historical eras. Fianna, the legendary warriors of Ireland. Fianna are described in Irish historical sources and legends as a band of semi-nomadic warriors who existed during the transitional period between tribal society and the formation of early kingdoms in Ireland. Their organizational structure did not follow the model of a state army, but relied on small, independent groups led by respected commanders, most notably the figure of Finn McCool in oral epics. Fianna members were typically young, unmarried men who joined to train in combat, gain experience, and prepare for eventual integration into settled communities or for higher positions. The role of the Fianna in ancient Irish society was complex. Besides defending territory, they engaged in spontaneous military actions, such as hunting, gathering food, protecting crops, warding off raids, and occasionally attacking other communities to control resources. Many records indicate a symbiotic relationship with the nobility, particularly in winter, when local chiefs would provide shelter and food in exchange for the Fianna's military service. This operational structure reflects the characteristics of a dispersed society, where semi-professional warrior groups acted both as protectors and potential sources of unrest for settled communities. At the same time, the image of the Fianna has been powerfully idealized in Irish legend and poetry. They are associated with values such as loyalty, battlefield skill, intelligence, resilience, and courage. The tales of the Fianna, passed down for centuries, have shaped Irish cultural identity and national pride. However, most legendary elements about the Fianna are difficult to verify when compared with archaeological and historical records. No documents provide exact details about their numbers, locations, or specific organizational structures at any point in history. Archaeological evidence has yet to yield material remains, such as summer camps, weapons, or sites directly linked to these groups. Today, scholars view the Fianna as a socio-cultural phenomenon, typical of prehistoric and early medieval Ireland, at a time when military organization was semi-professional and deeply influenced by economic, environmental, and tribal traditions. Analysis of the Fianna's role, structure, and mythology sheds light on the transition from a hunting and pastoral society to settled agriculture, as well as the interplay between history and legend in how the Irish remember their past. Hardships and challenges of living on Mars. Mars is a planet with a natural environment vastly different from Earth. Life on Mars must contend with harsh conditions and high risks. Most notably, its atmosphere is extremely thin, air pressure is just 0.6% that of Earth's, and it consists mainly of carbon dioxide, with almost no oxygen, making direct breathing impossible. The Martian surface is exposed to intense cosmic radiation, since the planet lacks a global magnetic field for protection. Dust storms, lasting days, or even weeks, can disrupt solar energy systems and damage equipment. The average temperature is very low, regularly staying below -60 degrees Celsius. Mars also features complex terrain, with massive volcanoes including Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. Potential geologic activity and airborne dust present ongoing challenges to human life support systems. Sustaining long-term human presence on Mars requires self-sufficiency in food, water, and fuel production. Closed-loop recycling systems and controlled environment agriculture are essential to minimize dependence on resupply from Earth. At the same time, methods for extracting subsurface ice and atmospheric carbon dioxide must be developed to produce oxygen and fuel. One of the greatest challenges is ensuring technical safety throughout the mission. All life support systems must function reliably over long durations, as major failures would be difficult to repair or resupply. Psychological stability for people living in isolation with limited communication with Earth is another critical concern. These challenges demand thorough preparation in technology, life support systems, contingency planning, and risk mitigation before a permanent community can be established on Mars. Shaped by geography. The history of ancient Egypt is divided into three main periods: the Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and New Kingdom, each marked by political, economic, and cultural advances. Geography played a decisive role in shaping and developing this civilization. Around 8,000 years ago, climate changes made the North African plains increasingly arid, expanding desert ecosystems and forcing prehistoric peoples to relocate and settle along the Nile River. The natural conditions of the Nile fostered a stable agricultural system, enabling people to develop complex social structures, form city-states, and eventually unify under the pharaohs. The river provided not only food security, but also served as a major transportation route, connecting different communities. The formation and development of ancient Egypt also reflect the close interplay between climate change, environmental adaptation, and social evolution. As other regions became more arid, population pressure increased along the Nile, spurring innovations in irrigation, labor organization, and architecture. As a result, Egypt became one of the world's earliest civilizations to establish a centralized government, develop writing, science, and distinct religion, laying the foundation for an empire that would last for millennia. China's moon base. China is currently advancing plans to build long-term research stations on the lunar surface. The project is designed around egg-shaped structures, chosen for their even load distribution and optimized stability in the moon's airless environment. These stations will be constructed directly from lunar regolith to minimize transport from Earth and make maximum use of local resources. Construction will employ 3D printing technology supported by automated robotic systems. This approach enables the creation of large, precise structures and reduces risks for humans during the initial building phase. According to the schedule, the first facilities could be completed by 2035. China's goal extends beyond establishing a single station. It aims to build a complex for living and working on the moon's surface. The system will include self-contained living quarters, research centers, and areas dedicated to on-site resource extraction. A key focus will be on mining water ice in permanently shadowed regions and extracting valuable minerals. The lunar base will also serve as a hub for future deep space missions. China plans to develop closed-loop life support systems for food production, water recycling, and oxygen generation directly on the moon. Construction of the base is part of a broader strategy to expand activities in space and test essential technologies for off-Earth habitation. The knowledge gained from the lunar base will lay the groundwork for future planetary exploration programs, including missions to Mars. Who invented the compass? The compass is one of the most important instruments in the history of technology, enabling humans to determine direction using the Earth's magnetic field. Ancient Chinese records state that the first prototype of the compass was invented during the Han Dynasty, around the 1st century BCE. The earliest devices consisted of naturally magnetic lodestone, crafted into spoon or fish-shaped pieces placed on a flat plate. These could rotate freely and always pointed along the north-south axis. At first, the compass was not used for navigation, but rather for divination and feng shui, helping to determine the orientation of buildings or arrange spaces according to traditional beliefs. Over the centuries, the technology was improved by using magnetized iron needles, which could float on water or be suspended by a fine thread to increase sensitivity adaptations that made the compass suitable for maritime navigation and geographic surveying. By the 11th century, compass technology had spread from China to the Islamic world and Europe via trade routes like the Silk Road. The use of the compass at sea launched a new era of ocean exploration, allowing European explorers to navigate open waters without relying solely on the position of the sun or the stars. From then on, the compass became the foundation for the development of global navigation, driving commercial exchange, cultural contact, and the broader process of globalization throughout human history. Wyoming Quarry. Ancient Quarry, Wyoming, USA. Wyoming Quarry is one of the oldest mineral extraction sites ever discovered in North America, located in central Wyoming. Decades of geological surveys and excavations have revealed that this place once served as an important mining center for ancient groups, long before the development of large-scale settled cultures on the continent. In the oldest soil layers, archaeologists have found stone tools, projectile points, flakes, and remnants of quarrying activities, mostly scattered in small clusters, suggesting a labor structure divided into groups. The distribution of tools and samples of shale, chert, and minerals from Wyoming Quarry indicate that extraction activities were not only for local needs, but also connected to a much broader network of material exchange. Some types of stone from this quarry have been found at sites hundreds of kilometers away, in cultural layers dating back to the end of the Ice Age. This evidence strengthens the hypothesis of the emergence of early trade routes between hunter-gatherer groups in Central North America. Stratigraphic analysis at Wyoming Quarry, combined with radiometric dating techniques, produces results that predate the classic timeline for early settlements in the Americas. This discovery raises new questions about the timing and pathways of the first human migrations to the continent and expands research into how ancient people adapted and exploited resources in prehistoric times. Sediment layers containing fire traces and stone tool-cut marks show that mining activities here were continuous over many generations. Beyond the technical significance of mining, Wyoming Quarry provides valuable insights into early social organization, demonstrating that labor coordination and material transport from quarry to end use occurred very early. The archaeological findings at this site play a pivotal role in revising theories about the history of mineral extraction, settlement patterns, and material exchange in prehistoric North America. Concepts of space communities and space tourism. In recent years, alongside planetary exploration programs, a number of ideas regarding space communities and space tourism have been proposed, all with the aim of expanding the living and operational boundaries of humanity beyond Earth. Asgardia is a project established with the goal of building an independent space nation. The project has announced its own constitution and launched a small satellite that operates in Earth's orbit. Currently, the project leaders are outlining plans to develop space infrastructure such as orbital stations and permanent bases on the Moon. The main objective is to create a space community with an independent management structure, its own legal system, and a development strategy aimed at settling humans beyond Earth. However, the long-term feasibility of Asgardia's goals still depends on many factors: technological capabilities, financial resources, and the acceptance of the international community. So far, the project remains in its early stages, with its main activities centered on maintaining a small satellite and developing an online community. Alongside these space community projects, commercial space tourism is also progressing rapidly. The company Orbital Assembly has proposed 2 space hotel stations, Pioneer Station and Voyager Station. Pioneer Station is designed on a small scale, accommodating about 28 people, and is scheduled for experimental operation in the coming years. Voyager Station is larger, with a capacity for around 400 guests, and is planned to be operational by the end of this decade. These stations will generate artificial gravity by rotating around a central axis, enabling long-term living and daily activities in space. Visitors will have access to both gravity and zero-gravity environments within the same station. Although the initial costs are expected to be very high, developers hope that expenses will gradually decrease over time as space transport and construction technologies become more widespread. The trend of commercializing space tourism is expected to open up an entirely new market in the aerospace industry, paving the way for civilian activities beyond Earth in the near future. Projects like Asgardia and these space hotel stations demonstrate how the concepts of nation, community, and tourism are expanding beyond the limits of our planet, helping to shape new models of living and movement in space for centuries to come. The ancient city of MV. The ancient city of MV was once a major center along the Silk Road in Central Asia. Its location today is within Turkmenistan. But throughout history, MV was more than just a stopping point. It was a place coveted by many cultures for its strategic value and wealth. Archaeological excavations have shown that traces of human settlement here date back to the 3rd millennium BCE. MV initially began as a prehistoric community and gradually became part of the Achaemenid Empire, known then as Magu. By the 6th century BCE, Cyrus the Great of Persia had renamed it MV. The city continued to change under the rule of Alexander the Great when he conquered the Persian Empire. It is believed that Alexander himself set foot here, and for a short time, the local people renamed the city Alexandria in his honor, but the old name was soon restored. Over the centuries, MV fell under the control of various peoples, including the Seleucids, Bactrians, Parthians, and Kushans. During this period, the city became a crossroads of cultures, constantly receiving and transferring influences from the surrounding empires. From around the year 220 to 553 CE, MV became a religious center, where Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, and Christianity all coexisted. It was a vibrant urban area, home to people of many different faiths living side by side. However, between the 6th and 11th centuries, MV became the capital of the Church of the East in this region, before gradually shifting toward Islam as earlier religions were pushed back. From that point onward, the city began to decline. Today, all that remains of MV are scattered ruins lying amidst the desert, in a place that was once a great metropolis at one time, believed to be the most populous city in the world. MV is now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but its current image is little more than crumbling walls, old foundations, and faint traces of a once flourishing era. The city of Karakoto, Mongolia. Karakoto is an ancient city built in 1032, situated in the Gobi Desert region, in what is now Inner Mongolia, China. According to historical records and geological surveys, Karakoto was once an important transit point along the Silk Road, serving as both a commercial and administrative center for the Western Xia dynasty. The city was located beside the Blackwater River, a vital water source that sustained the area during its peak. By the 13th century, Karakoto was attacked by the army of Genghis Khan during the Mongol expansion. After being captured, the city continued to develop under Mongol rule. Archaeological evidence and old maps show that Karakoto maintained its strategic position and remained an important transit hub for many centuries. In 1372, the Ming dynasty launched a military campaign to gain control of the region. According to historical accounts, the Ming forces did not attack the city directly, but instead diverted the flow of the Blackwater River, cutting off the city's water supply completely. The loss of this critical resource made it impossible for residents and soldiers inside to maintain daily life and defense for long. Ultimately, the Ming army captured the city, and Karakoto was abandoned immediately after the battle. Modern surveys show that most of the city's structures have been destroyed or collapsed due to the effects of time and the desert environment. Nevertheless, the city walls still stand, with an estimated height of nearly 10 meters, enclosing what was once the heart of the city. Many sections of the walls and foundations of key buildings still retain their original shape, providing important data for historical and archaeological research. Karakoto was rediscovered by Russian explorers at the beginning of the 20th century. There, they found numerous documents written in the ancient Tangut language, as well as murals still preserved on the walls. These artifacts are now housed in major museums around the world, helping to reconstruct part of the history of a city that was once a vibrant center of trade and military activity in the Gobi Desert. The city of Caral, Peru. The city of Caral is located on the Supe Plateau, about 23 kilometers from the northern coast of Peru. It is one of the oldest known urban centers in the Americas. Archaeological findings show that Caral was built around 2600 BCE, almost contemporaneous with the ancient pyramids of Egypt. This area includes a number of complex structures, the most notable of which are 6 large stone pyramids, with an average height of about 18 meters. Based on the remaining ruins, researchers have determined that Caral was once a fully planned city, featuring a central plaza, ceremonial courtyards, and residential zones. The buildings were constructed from stone and earth, enabling them to withstand the arid climate of Peru's coastal region. Inside some of the pyramids, archaeologists have discovered large staircases leading to the top and ceremonial spaces that show traces of fire and wooden artifacts. Further studies have also revealed the presence of musical instruments made from the bones of marine animals, such as flutes and drums, indicating that music played an important role in the daily life of the community. What is remarkable about Caral is the lack of clear evidence for warfare or defensive walls. The city developed primarily based on agriculture, thanks to its control over water sources near the Supe River and the ability to construct simple irrigation systems. Additionally, artifacts indicate that Caral maintained trade relations with both coastal and highland regions. Around 2000 BCE, the city began to be abandoned. Archaeologists have not yet determined a clear reason for Caral's collapse. There is no sign of large-scale war, natural disaster, or severe epidemic. Some theories suggest that climate change or internal social upheaval may have caused residents to leave the area. Today, Caral is considered one of the most important archaeological heritage sites in South America. The discovery of this city has expanded scientific understanding of early civilization development along the Pacific coast and demonstrated that the ability to construct complex urban centers was not limited to Egypt or Mesopotamia, but also existed simultaneously in the Americas. The Film City in Qatar. In the northern desert of Qatar, a traditional-style village has been discovered in a state of complete abandonment, showing no signs of long-term habitation. This area is now referred to as Film City, but its origins and original purpose remain unclear. The buildings in this area are fully constructed in terms of form, including residences, watchtowers, courtyards, and a mosque. All were built using local materials such as clay, wood, and stone, showing evidence of construction techniques common in Gulf coastal villages. However, there are no traces suggesting that residents ever lived here or that stable economic activities took place. No auxiliary structures, water supply systems, or signs of long-term habitation have been found. Surface surveys show no layers of cultural deposits accumulated over time. Some theories propose that this area might have been built to serve as a filming location or set for an undisclosed project. Certain unofficial sources mention the possibility that it was reconstructed for tourism or as a display of traditional architecture. But there is no archaeological or administrative record to confirm this. Film City is isolated from modern settlements and is not connected to any formal transportation infrastructure. Access is mainly via temporary off-road routes, indicating that the site was not planned for long-term use. The current condition of the buildings shows only basic preservation, with no evidence of regular restoration. Residences and wooden details are naturally deteriorating. As of now, no systematic archaeological research has been conducted in this area. There are no geological data, no discovered artifacts, and no detailed surveys regarding the age of the building materials or traces of habitation. The origin of the village remains an open question, with no scientific consensus on the time of construction, its intended use, or the reasons for its abandonment. The lack of cultural layers, absence of support systems for daily life, and no discovery of everyday objects strongly suggest that this was never a true residential area. The site is currently under limited protection, with no extensive research activities underway, and it remains a valuable subject for future studies on the history of construction and land use in the deserts of Qatar. Lucanium, Roman wooden fortress. Along the eastern frontier of the Roman Empire, a defensive system was established to protect its territories against incursions by outside tribes. Among these strongholds, Lucanium was one of the largest wooden fortresses, built at a strategic position right next to the Danube River, at the border between the Roman provinces and the lands of the Sarmatian peoples. The fortress was initiated in the 1st century, according to documentary sources and archaeological evidence, which show that the original structure was primarily constructed from wood and rammed earth, forming a system of palisades, moats, watchtowers, and barracks for soldiers. The scale of Lucanium could accommodate between 500 and 1,000 stationed troops and included living quarters, granaries, weapon workshops, and auxiliary facilities. The combination of Roman military architecture and the area's natural conditions contributed to a continuous defensive capability along the border. Over time, Lucanium was reinforced with layers of stone and expanded with additional guard posts, adapting to the needs of traffic control, monitoring migration, and preventing surprise attacks. Alongside the development of nearby settlements and trade activity around the fortress, this place gradually became a military and economic hub of the region for many centuries. However, by the end of the 5th century, under increasing pressure from nomadic tribes and major changes in the political structure of the Roman Empire, Lucanium, along with many other border defenses, was abandoned. Today, the remains of the fortress are mostly limited to foundations and traces of the old walls, providing archaeologists with valuable data about Roman defensive strategies and military organization in Eastern Europe. The Sade Fields, Ireland. The Sade Fields, located in the coastal boglands of northwest Ireland, were discovered in the 1930s during peat cutting operations. The first evidence was found by a local schoolteacher while cutting away surface soil for fuel. Beneath the thick layer of peat, aligned stone blocks and underground stone walls were uncovered. This discovery was later investigated and confirmed by archaeologists as the remains of an ancient agricultural settlement. Beneath the peat, researchers discovered a system of stone walls laid out in a planned fashion, forming enclosed fields. This system was built in a grid pattern, with clearly defined boundaries that reveal methods of agricultural organization and land management dating back to the Neolithic period. In addition to the walls, foundations of small structures were found, most likely used as temporary shelters for farmers or for storing supplies. Using radiocarbon dating, researchers determined that the Sade Fields were in use around 5,500 to 6,000 years ago, contemporaneous with many early agricultural cultures in Europe. However, there is no evidence of continued development after this period. The main reason appears to be regional climate changes, leading to the accumulation of thick peat and the transformation of the landscape from arable land into bog. Stratigraphic surveys indicate that the formation of the peat layer occurred over a long, stable period, effectively preserving the underlying agricultural structures. No evidence has been found of long-term settlement, such as large dwellings, water systems, or everyday pottery. This has led archaeologists to conclude that this was a seasonal agricultural area or was only used for a limited time before being abandoned. Today, the Said fields are considered the largest and best preserved ancient agricultural system discovered beneath peat in Europe. The stone walls, field surfaces, and boundary divisions have remained intact beneath the deep peat layer. The site provides valuable data on how Neolithic people farmed and managed land resources in harsh climatic conditions before the ecosystem of the region fully shifted to the bogland it is today. The 1540 Expedition Excavation, United States. In the Santa Cruz Valley area, an archaeological team led by Denny Seymour conducted a survey and discovered a site potentially linked to the Spanish expedition of 1540. This location is believed to contain temporary settlement remains associated with the expedition of Francisco Vázquez de Coronado as it moved through the American Southwest. The excavation yielded many artifacts of European origin, including crossbow bolts, pieces of chainmail, iron nails, fragments of weapons, horse remains, and a bronze musket about 1 meter long. The musket was found on the foundation of a structure built from local materials, indicating that this may have once been an organized stopover. Metal samples were compared with artifacts from other Spanish sites dating to the 16th century. The results showed similarities in alloy composition and manufacturing methods, consistent with the period of Coronado's expedition. Researchers also documented horse-related traces, consistent with the mobility patterns of Spanish groups at the time. There were no permanent housing structures or cultural layers indicating long-term occupation at the site. Archaeological evidence suggests this may have been a field camp or temporary garrison for military movement. Geographically, the site is located about 64 kilometers north of the Coronado National Memorial. To protect its archaeological value and prevent disturbance, the exact location of the site has not been widely disclosed. Additional excavations are planned to clarify the site's structure, occupation period, and specific role in the Spanish expedition's journey. This discovery is considered valuable in providing direct archaeological evidence of early European presence on the territory of what is now the United States, particularly in the Southwest, where previous records had mainly documented indigenous migration traces. Continuing analysis and comparison of these artifacts may further contribute to research on the earliest encounters between Europeans and native cultures in this region. The Indigenous Canal, United States. In the area near the Gulf of Mexico, archaeologists have discovered an ancient canal nearly 1.6 kilometers in length. This structure has been dated to around 1,400 years ago and was built by the indigenous communities living in the region to serve canoe transportation. The canal was found in a coastal marshland area. Although it was recorded in documents as early as the 19th century, it had never been thoroughly investigated until official excavations were carried out. Through mapping and sediment analysis, researchers confirmed that this canal was a man-made structure, dug to connect coastal waters with inland waterways. According to survey results, the canal's width was suitable for small canoes, and it was designed with a consistent depth, enabling continuous travel through the area's typical swampy environment. Utilizing the canal allowed the local community to reach fishing grounds and transport goods without having to cross complex wetlands. Analysis of sediment and plant remains within the canal indicate that this was a long-used structure, showing evidence of periodic maintenance and dredging over time. However, no material evidence remains of nearby villages, likely due to changes in terrain and natural conditions over many centuries. This discovery contributes to our understanding of environmental adaptation and water engineering techniques among Native American communities in the southeastern United States before European contact. The canal is seen as a clear example of how indigenous groups utilized the landscape and hydrological resources to optimize subsistence and transportation in a challenging coastal environment. Ongoing research will focus on tracing related habitation sites and defining the full extent of this waterway transportation network. The ancient city of Gardar, Greenland. The ancient city of Gardar was once a major religious center for the Norwegian community in Greenland during the Middle Ages. According to historical records, Gardar was chosen as the seat of the local bishop in 1126, marking the establishment of the Greenland diocese under the Archdiocese of Nidaros, Norway. Shortly after its founding, the first bishop, Arnaldur, began construction of a grand church at Gardar. This church was designed on a scale surpassing any other in the area and served as the site for religious ceremonies, ecclesiastical authority, and the coordination of spiritual life for the entire Norse community in Greenland. In addition to the main church, the Gardar complex included residences, storage buildings, and agricultural facilities. Records show that large-scale livestock farming was maintained here, playing a vital role in the region's economic life. Religious activity at Gardar gradually declined from the late 14th century onward. Factors such as colder climate, population decline, reduced contact with Europe, and internal church upheavals led to the weakening of the Greenland diocese's influence. By the 15th century, the entire area of Gardar was abandoned. The church structure fell into ruin over time, and auxiliary buildings gradually disappeared due to the harsh environment. Today, the remains of Gardar are located near the village of Igaliku, Greenland. Archaeologists have found the foundations of the Grand Church, preserved stone walls, and traces of ancient barns and livestock pens. Gardar stands as evidence of a prolonged Norse presence in Greenland and reflects the enduring role of Christianity in this region for nearly 4 centuries. Excavation and research continue, seeking to clarify the organization, religious life, and specific reasons for the community's decline. The oldest Buddhist temple, Pakistan. Excavations at the Bazira site in Pakistan have uncovered the foundations of what has been identified as the oldest Buddhist temple in the region. Based on architectural features and collected artifacts, the temple was constructed around the 3rd century BCE, during the period when the Mauryan dynasty controlled the area. Archaeological data show that the temple underwent at least 2 phases of expansion and reconstruction. The first was during the Mauryan period. The second came under the influence of Greek origin rulers following Alexander the Great's conquests. In the 2nd century BCE, the temple continued to be maintained under the patronage of King Menander, who is noted for his support of Buddhism. Cultural layers reveal that the temple was in continuous use until about the 4th century CE. In the uppermost strata, signs of earthquake damage have been identified as the direct cause of the structure's collapse. After this event, there is no evidence that the temple was rebuilt or continued in use. The site was gradually buried, and no further religious activity is recorded. This discovery adds valuable field data regarding the development of Buddhism in the region from an early period. Architectural features and artifact distribution show the cultural interactions between local Buddhism and Greek-Indian influences following Alexander's campaigns. The site remains under ongoing excavation to collect additional evidence related to structure, ritual practices, and the development and cessation of activity at the temple. The Church of Surbani Yas, UAE. The church on Surbani Yas Island in the United Arab Emirates was discovered by archaeologists in the 1990s in a remote area near the coast. Excavations revealed that this was a religious complex, including a church, a monastery, and auxiliary residential structures. Based on the artifacts recovered, researchers have determined that the site dates to around the 7th century CE, which corresponds to the early Islamic era on the Arabian Peninsula. Items found at the site include ceramics, glassware, and various artifacts originating from other parts of the Gulf region, indicating that the location was connected through trade with neighboring communities. Archaeological evidence also shows that residents here raised livestock and participated in craft production. Notably, the architectural style and distinctive features of the church are consistent with the traditions of the Eastern Church, a branch of Christianity that once existed in this region before Islam became widespread. This discovery provides important material for the study of religious diversity and shows that during the early Islamic period, other religious communities continued to exist and could operate with a certain degree of independence in the region. However, the complex was eventually abandoned, most likely due to political and religious changes in the area. Today, the archaeological site is preserved as part of the UAE's historical heritage, contributing to a broader understanding of the religious and social past of the Arabian Peninsula. Getty, the forgotten city on the Indian Ocean. If you've ever thought that the world's greatest ancient cities only emerged in Europe, the Middle East, or Asia, it's time to take a closer look at what archaeology has uncovered in Kenya. Hidden in the coastal forests of the country's east, the ruins of Getty stand as a prime example of urban development in medieval East Africa. A city built from coral stone, with streets laid out in a grid, a clean water supply system, and even underground drainage. Getty was once a major trade center on the shores of the Indian Ocean. Archaeologists have uncovered artifacts from far-flung regions, porcelain from China, Venetian glass from Italy, Indian coins, and goods from the Middle East. This proves that Getty was far from an isolated community. Instead, it was a vital link in the bustling intercontinental trade network stretching from East Africa to Asia and Europe. One thing that continues to puzzle researchers is the disappearance of Getty's population. The city's structures remain remarkably well preserved, from the stone pillars of its mosque to water cisterns, deep wells, and solid stone floors, but the city was abruptly abandoned in the 17th century, with no evidence of conflict or major natural disaster. What remains is a silent space amid the trees, where coral walls are slowly weathered by time. Today, Getty is one of the most significant archaeological sites in East Africa, providing a direct window into the urban life, building skills, and commercial connectivity of Kenya's coastal communities centuries ago. These ruins are proof that Africa's urban history rivals that of any major civilization elsewhere in the world, even as many mysteries surrounding Getty remain unresolved to this day. The idea of terraforming Mars. The concept of terraforming refers to the process of transforming the environment of another planet to make it more Earth-like, enabling humans and other life forms to survive there. On Mars, terraforming aims to create a stable atmosphere, raise the surface temperature, make it possible for liquid water to exist, and eventually build an ecosystem that supports life. The long-term goal is to develop a planet where humans can live and breathe directly, without the need for life support systems. Several theoretical solutions have been proposed for this process. One idea involves detonating nuclear explosions at Mars's poles to release CO2s and create a greenhouse effect that would warm the planet. Another approach suggests extracting the CO2 present in the soil and underground ice deposits. Some scientists have even proposed redirecting gas-rich comets to collide with Mars in order to add more gas to the atmosphere. However, all these approaches face enormous technological barriers. With current capabilities, humanity is unable to move comets or produce explosions large enough to affect the climate of an entire planet. Even if CO2s could be released, the atmospheric pressure would still be far too low to support the existence of liquid water, and the atmosphere itself could be lost to space. One of the greatest challenges is that Mars lacks a global magnetic field. Without this protective shield, the atmosphere is highly vulnerable to being stripped away by solar wind over time, causing instability and reducing the effectiveness of any effort to increase pressure or retain heat. At present, experimental research on Mars atmospheric modification is only happening on a very small scale. For example, the MOXIE device aboard the Perseverance rover has successfully converted Martian CO2s into oxygen. However, the current rate of oxygen production is only sufficient to support a small animal for a short period. This demonstrates that the technology is progressing but remains far from being scalable. According to computational models, the process of terraforming Mars, if it ever proves feasible, would likely require thousands of years to complete. This is a long-term goal that would demand many generations of technological progress, resource accumulation, and research into planetary environmental control methods. For now, terraforming remains an idea that cannot be realized in the near future. Iuno. Okunoin Cemetery. Okunoin Cemetery, located on Mount Koya in Japan, is a religious site of remarkable scale and archaeological significance. It is recognized as the largest Buddhist cemetery in Japan. According to historical documents, the area was established in the 9th century and is closely linked to the spread of Shingon Buddhism, founded by Kobo Daishi. Kobo Daishi is regarded as the central figure in the cemetery's religious system, with local beliefs holding that he has not truly died but remains in meditation here, awaiting future enlightenment. Field surveys and stratigraphic studies have documented more than 200,000 graves, memorial stones, and auxiliary structures arranged along ancient pathways winding through cedar forests. The graves span many centuries, including tombs of feudal lords, warriors, monks, and Buddhist devotees from all social backgrounds. The forms of these graves are diverse, featuring stone stupas, Buddha statues, and various inscribed stelae, reflecting the continuous development of Buddhist art in Japan. Based on archaeological traces and pilgrimage records, Okunoin has always functioned as both a burial ground and a major site for religious ceremonies throughout the history of Shingon Buddhism. Rites for the dead, chanting, and religious rituals are frequently held here, directly connected to the belief in the ongoing existence of the soul. According to local religious views, souls at Okunoin are not seen as fully separated from the living world, but are believed to be waiting for rebirth under the guidance of Kobo Daishi. Interdisciplinary research combining archaeology, religious history, and anthropology has shown that the spatial organization of the cemetery is structured by social status and chronology, and reveals the continuous evolution of belief systems over many historical periods. The preservation of Okunoin today is not only religiously significant, but also offers a valuable model for studying burial customs, Japanese Buddhist traditions, and the transformation of sacred spaces over time. Okunoin Cemetery continues to function as a pilgrimage center and an important archaeological heritage site, drawing ongoing interest from researchers both in Japan and internationally. Detailed studies of construction materials, local ecosystems, and land use patterns are still underway to complete our understanding of the site's structure, functions, and historical development. Petra, the stone city and the story of Nabatean women's rights. Deep in the deserts of Jordan, Petra was once the grand capital of the Nabatean kingdom. The city is famous for its unique rock-cut architecture, water management systems, and its strategic location along trade routes connecting Arabia, the Mediterranean, and Mesopotamia. However, a recent archaeological discovery has added a new dimension to Petra's history by revealing the roles and rights of women in Nabatean society. During excavations, archaeologists found an ancient scroll in a cave near Petra. This document, dating to the 1st century, is a legal record detailing the ownership and management of a date palm orchard near the Dead Sea by a woman named Abi Adan. The scroll shows that Abi Adan not only had rights to land use, but could also transfer property, sign documents independently, act as a witness in legal proceedings, and even obtain a divorce, with her property remaining independent of any husband or male guardian. This discovery demonstrates how different Nabatean society was compared to neighboring civilizations of the time. While women's rights were strictly limited in Rome or Greece, women in Petra could own property and play active roles in the economic and social life of their community. It provides clear evidence of the advanced legal and social status of Nabatean women during the kingdom's golden age. After its peak, Petra fell under Roman control and declined as trade routes shifted and earthquakes destroyed many structures. Still, documents like Abi Adan's scroll offer direct insight into the social, economic, and legal structure of a once powerful civilization in the heart of the Middle Eastern desert. Today, Petra stands not only as an architectural wonder, but as a testament to the diversity and progressiveness of ancient societies documented in world history. The Aral Salt Flats. The Aral Salt Flats, spanning Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, mark the site of one of the 20th century's greatest environmental disasters. Before 1960, the Aral Sea was the world's 4th largest inland lake and a crucial center for the local economy and community, especially fisheries. However, Soviet-era water management policies fundamentally altered the region's natural balance. The diversion of the two main rivers, the Amu Darya and Sia Darya, for agricultural use drastically reduced water inflow to the Aral Sea. The rate of desiccation accelerated in the decades that followed, shrinking the water's surface area, raising salinity, and triggering the collapse of the aquatic ecosystem. As fishing became unsustainable, port towns were abandoned, and the local economy collapsed. Along what was once the Aral shoreline, researchers have documented the presence of numerous ships left stranded in what is now a dry salt desert. These ships, once vital for transportation and fishing, now serve as direct evidence of an economy that no longer exists. This phenomenon has created a ship graveyard with a high density of abandoned vessels, illustrating the scale of the local maritime industry before the environmental disaster. Modern environmental studies show that the Aral salt flats now suffer from airborne salt and residual chemicals from past agricultural activities. The evaporation of surface sediments releases hazardous dust, posing significant health risks to nearby populations. Restoration projects have begun to revive parts of the Aral Sea's ecosystem, but results remain limited to small areas. Research on the Aral salt flats is not only aimed at ecological recovery, but also at analyzing the consequences of unsustainable water management policies. The ship graveyard here is viewed as a modern archaeological testament to the direct impact of human intervention on natural systems, highlighting the irreversible changes to the region's economic and geographical structure. The gate to the underworld. The Alalotria cave in Mani is recognized as one of the most important archaeological sites related to ritual practices and ancient Greek beliefs about the afterlife. This location was once regarded by local inhabitants as a gateway to Hades, the land of the dead in Greek mythology. The cave structure extends nearly 300 meters, with successive chambers creating a closed, subterranean space that matches descriptions in ancient legends of a boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Geological surveys and archaeological excavations reveal that Alalotria cave was once inhabited by prehistoric communities. Traces of daily life, including hearth remains, stone tools, and animal bones, have been found in various geological strata, demonstrating continuous use throughout the Neolithic period. According to local records and geological studies, around 5,000 years ago, a major earthquake struck the region, causing the main entrance of the cave to collapse. Analysis of the site and the buried sediment layers suggests this collapse happened suddenly, as a large number of human skeletons have been discovered near the cave's entrance. Anthropological studies of the remains indicate the presence of adults and children with no signs of escape, suggesting these individuals were trapped and buried in place. The combination of archaeological evidence and folklore has strengthened the ancient Greek belief that Allelotria Cave was the entrance to Hades. In mythological accounts, this site is often depicted as the threshold between two worlds, where some Greek heroes attempted to cross in search of the souls of loved ones. Today, Allelotria Cave is regarded as a site of great natural and religious archaeological value for the study of funerary rituals and ancestor worship in the Mediterranean. Excavations continue in hopes of clarifying the relationship between the real location and its descriptions in Greek mythology. Ongoing stratigraphic, structural, and osteological analysis is expected to yield more evidence about how prehistoric people lived and confronted natural disasters in this unique setting. Dracula's Castle. Bran Castle, located in Transylvania, is an actual architectural structure built at the end of the 14th century. This castle is considered one of the region's most important medieval monuments and is often cited as the inspiration for the legend of Dracula, the fictional character from Bram Stoker's 1897 novel. Although Stoker never visited Romania, his novel's descriptions of the castle share many similarities with Bran Castle, particularly its hilltop location and defensive design. Historical records indicate that Bran Castle played a vital role in controlling trade routes between Transylvania and Wallachia. In the 15th century, Vlad III, known as Vlad the Impaler, who later inspired the Dracula character, operated in the region. However, there is no direct evidence that Vlad actually resided at Bran Castle. The connection between the castle and Dracula is mainly a result of literary speculation and local folklore. Bran Castle is also closely associated with regional beliefs about Strigoi, spirits said to leave the body at night and harm the community. Belief in Strigoi had a significant influence on the vampire lore of Eastern Europe. Practices to ward off Strigoi, such as driving a stake through the heart of the dead or scattering garlic around homes, are believed to have been real historical customs recorded in many Romanian villages. Today, Bran Castle is preserved as a historical monument and is one of Romania's major tourist attractions. It draws attention not only because of its Dracula connection, but also as a repository of regional history, culture, and customs from Transylvania. Archaeological and historical research continues to further illuminate the castle's strategic role in the past and its relationship to centuries-old legends. The beginnings of agriculture. In the remote highlands of Yemen, a team of archaeologists has identified direct evidence of ancient irrigation systems dating back as far as 5,200 years. Surveys and excavations have uncovered a total of 174 different irrigation structures spread across a wide area. These findings demonstrate the advanced labor organization and hydraulic engineering skills of the local community, who thrived despite harsh natural conditions and scarce fresh water. Analysis indicates that ancient people here actively harnessed the rare summer rains. They designed channels, storage works, and diversion systems to capture and distribute seasonal floodwaters from the valleys, ensuring consistent moisture and a reliable water supply for crops. This irrigation system helped boost agricultural productivity and provided year-round food security, even with prolonged periods of drought. By mastering water control, the inhabitants gradually transitioned from a nomadic, hunter-gatherer lifestyle to permanent settlement and large-scale agriculture. This was a crucial step toward the formation of concentrated population centers and the birth of the first cities in the Middle East. The appearance of such large-scale irrigation not only made survival possible, but also laid the groundwork for complex societies, stimulating trade and cultural exchange. Archaeological evidence of irrigation systems in Yemen is clear proof of the essential role water management played in humanity's development. Without these achievements, the great civilizations of the Middle East, such as Sumer, Akkad, or Babylon, could never have emerged and flourished on the arid plains of Mesopotamia. The pre-flood world. The idea of a pre-flood world originates from ancient legends and religious texts, most notably the Bible. These stories propose the existence of highly advanced civilizations before a cataclysmic global flood, known as the Great Flood. According to legend, people in the pre-flood era lived for hundreds of years and possessed exceptional intelligence and abilities far beyond those of later generations. Ancient sources like the Book of Genesis describe this period as a time when humanity reached its intellectual and physical peak, and mention remarkable figures such as the Nephilim, beings of extraordinary power and abilities. When the Great Flood occurred, these entire civilizations were wiped out, leaving behind only traces or memories handed down through generations. However, when viewed alongside modern scientific research, scholars note that flood legends appear in many different cultures, from Mesopotamia and Egypt to India and South America. Geological and archaeological analyses have recorded evidence of significant ancient hydrological events. Nevertheless, there is no definitive proof of the existence of a pre-flood society with capabilities surpassing those of the known ancient civilizations. What remains are legends and cultural heritage that reflect humanity's perceptions of the past and the memory of global natural disasters. Gahan Tepe. Gahan Tepe, an archaeological site near the border between Turkey and Syria, has provided crucial evidence, prompting a re-evaluation of prehistoric social development. Excavations at this site indicate that the settlement dates back approximately 11,400 years, predating the invention and widespread adoption of agriculture as traditionally understood. According to archaeological records, the people living at Gahan Tepe constructed permanent structures and maintained a stable community at a time when most human groups around the world were still practicing mobile hunting and gathering. The houses found in the area have well-defined foundations, solid stone construction, and signs of daily activities, clearly demonstrating that this was a long-term settlement rather than a temporary camp. Notably, there is no evidence of systematic farming at the time these houses were built. Artifacts unearthed at the site, including stone tools, food remains, and ritual objects, show that the community continued to rely on available natural resources from the surrounding environment to sustain life. This suggests that the transition to a sedentary lifestyle may have occurred before the development of agriculture, challenging the long-held hypothesis that farming was the main driver for humans to abandon nomadism. In addition, Gahan Tepe is located only about 30 meters from Göbekli Tepe, one of the world's most famous prehistoric stone monument sites, dating to a similar period and believed to have been an important ceremonial center. The close proximity of these two sites has led to speculation that early settled communities may have formed complex social and religious networks even before the emergence of farming and animal domestication. The discoveries at Gahan Tepe are forcing researchers to reconsider the relationship between the development of settled communities, agriculture, and religion. Instead of the traditional hypothesis that agriculture sparked the creation of villages, data from Gahan Tepe suggest that the sedentary lifestyle may have emerged independently, and it was this concentrated way of life that created the environment for agricultural techniques to arise in subsequent stages. Excavations at Gahan Tepe are ongoing, aiming to further clarify the social structure and economic patterns of its ancient community. The mysterious Chinese bronze statues. The archaeological remains at Sanxingdui in Sichuan province, China, have provided key evidence of the existence of the Shu Kingdom, an ancient culture that appeared around 4,500 years ago. During excavations, archaeologists discovered a system of sacrificial pits containing thousands of bronze, jade, and gold artifacts, most notably a series of bronze statues with forms unlike those of any other civilization in ancient China. These statues feature complex carvings, unfamiliar facial features, and abstract forms, clearly different from the traditional artistic style of China. In addition to human statues, Sanxingdui yielded large bronze masks, dragon heads, columns, and many uniquely shaped objects whose purpose and religious significance remain a mystery to researchers. Notably, there are no accompanying written records, making it even more challenging to decode the history and society of the Shu Kingdom. The Shu Kingdom once flourished in architecture, art, and metallurgy, yet it vanished suddenly and mysteriously, leaving behind vast ruins and a huge trove of artifacts. The reason for this disappearance remains unclear, possibly tied to natural disasters or far-reaching social changes. The remaining objects at Sanxingdui are now a vital archaeological resource, helping to expand our understanding of the diversity and complexity of ancient civilizations in China. Lost colonists of Roanoke. In 1587, the first group of English settlers was sent to Roanoke Island, marking one of England's earliest attempts at colonization in the New World. When expedition leader John White returned to England for aid, the entire population of the colony mysteriously vanished. Upon his return 3 years later, White found no trace of the colonists, only the word Croatoan carved into a wooden post and crow on a nearby tree. There were no remains or clear evidence of conflict or disease, making the Roanoke mystery one of the most enduring unsolved stories in North American history. Theories about the fate of the settlers are based on analysis of historical records, local legend, and modern archaeology. One prominent line of research considers the possibility that the English colonists assimilated with local tribes, such as the Croatan or Hatteras, supported by archaeological evidence from Hatteras Island. Here, researchers have discovered European artifacts such as swords, writing slates, and 16th century buttons, alongside stories passed down among local communities about the appearance of white people in later generations. However, no skeletal remains or direct DNA evidence has confirmed any intermingling between the two groups. Interdisciplinary studies, including archaeology, genetics, and artifact analysis, are ongoing in the quest to determine the fate of the Roanoke colony. To this day, the story is considered one of the greatest mysteries of early American colonization, reflecting the complexity of cultural encounters and the difficulties of reconstructing historical events from limited material evidence. Amazonian settlements. Research using LIDAR scanning technology has revealed the existence of a vast urban system hidden deep within the Amazon rainforest in the Llanos de Mojos region of eastern Bolivia. The topographical data show ancient settlements covering hundreds of hectares, featuring multiple central areas, geometric earthen mounds, straight connecting roads, irrigation channels, and artificial embankments. The scale and organization of these structures far surpass earlier assumptions about traditional hunter-gatherer societies in the Amazon. Excavations and analysis of archaeological materials show that these urban centers once supported high population densities, stable agricultural production systems, and extensive networks for transportation and exchange of goods. Evidence includes earthwork architecture, remnants of pottery, tools, and clear traces of large-scale landscape modification for water management and increased agricultural output. Both LIDAR and archaeological data indicate that Amazonian settlements developed a complex model of social organization, with functional divisions between residential areas, ceremonial centers, and defensive works. The existence and eventual collapse of this urban system have reshaped our understanding of the sophistication of indigenous South American civilizations before European contact, expanding the scope of research on human settlement and environmental adaptation in the tropical rainforest. Junipani Stone Circles. Located in the state of Maharashtra, India, the Junipani archaeological site consists of an ancient complex of stone circles, with numerous stone structures arranged in circular patterns over a wide area. These stone circles have been dated to more than 3,500 years ago, corresponding to the transitional period between the Neolithic and Iron Ages in the Indian subcontinent. Here, archaeologists have discovered stones of various shapes ranging from circular to rectangular, transported from elsewhere and placed according to specific patterns. On the surface of some stones, small circular cut marks known as cupules appear, distributed in distinctive arrangements. Field analysis suggests that these markings likely represent astronomical phenomena, such as the sunrise point on the winter solstice or other celestial events. Excavations have also revealed burial remains beneath the stone circles, indicating that each circle may have served both as a grave site and a tool for observing the sky. Researchers propose that the ancient people of Junipani used these stone circles and symbols to track the movement of celestial bodies and mark important times of the year. These findings add to our knowledge of the history and development of astronomy in India. To this day, the full meaning of the Junipani stone circles and their associated symbols remains an open question for further research. Will new discoveries at this site help expand our understanding of ancient cosmological knowledge in the Indian subcontinent? Titan. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, is considered one of the most promising locations for future space colonization. Unlike the Moon and Mars, Titan possesses a thick atmosphere with a surface pressure greater than that of Earth, offering protection from cosmic radiation and reducing the risks posed by spaceborne rays to living organisms and technological equipment. Titan's atmosphere is rich in nitrogen and contains large quantities of hydrocarbons in both gaseous and liquid forms. Its surface is dotted with lakes and seas of liquid methane and ethane, forming vast reservoirs of hydrocarbon resources. These natural fuels could potentially provide energy for manufacturing, daily living, and the operation of equipment within a closed environment. The high atmospheric pressure on Titan would allow humans to move outside without the need for heavy pressure suits, though systems for isolating toxic gases would still be required. However, Titan's natural conditions present many technical challenges. The average surface temperature remains extremely low, around -179 degrees Celsius, requiring all survival systems to operate reliably in a super cold environment. The atmosphere's methane, ethane, and hydrogen cyanide content would necessitate complete environmental isolation for human habitation. The distance from Earth to Titan is one of the greatest logistical barriers. With current technology, travel time is estimated at 4 to 7 years, depending on flight trajectory. Transporting materials, equipment, and personnel would demand a robust, long-term interplanetary supply chain. Despite its advantages in atmosphere and resources, Titan remains a long-term research objective most suitable for later phases of space expansion. Once bases on the Moon and Mars have been successfully established and operated, Titan is regarded as a potential next step in the strategy of space exploration and settlement for the centuries to come. Byzantium, the Eastern Roman Empire. Byzantium, originally an ancient Greek colony situated at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, was founded in the 7th century BCE and gradually became a major center for commerce and trade in the Eastern Mediterranean. In 330 CE, the Roman Emperor Constantine chose Byzantium as the new capital of the Roman Empire, renaming it Constantinople and laying the foundation for the development of the Eastern Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 CE, the Eastern Roman Empire endured and flourished for more than a millennium. Thanks to its unique location controlling the vital trade routes between Asia and Europe, Byzantium became a central economic, political, and cultural hub connecting Eastern and Western civilizations. The state was organized as an absolute monarchy, with a highly developed bureaucracy and a legal system inherited and refined from ancient Roman traditions. In military affairs, Byzantium built a professional standing army, employed fortress defense tactics, and maintained key border forces to repel attacks from all directions, especially from northern nomadic tribes, the Arabs and Western Crusaders. Constantinople itself was fortified with formidable defenses like the Theodosian walls, allowing the city to withstand numerous sieges throughout the Middle Ages. Culturally and religiously, Byzantium played a vital role in preserving and advancing the classical Greco-Roman legacy, while also becoming the heart of Eastern Christianity through the rise of the Orthodox Church. The empire's achievements in architecture, art, law, and philosophy left a profound mark on European civilization during late antiquity and the Renaissance. Greek gradually replaced Latin in administration and culture, reflecting the transformation from Roman heritage to a distinct Eastern Roman identity. The Byzantine Empire came to an end in 1453 when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman forces, marking the close of a state that had been the most powerful center of medieval Europe and a crucial bridge between Asian and European civilizations. The study of Byzantium offers key insights into the evolution of government, society, and religion in the post-classical world, the feasibility and debate surrounding settlement on Mars. Today, SpaceX and NASA are the two leading organizations with plans to send humans to Mars, though their approaches differ markedly. SpaceX pursues a rapid development roadmap with ambitious targets in a short time frame. Elon Musk has set the initial goal for crewed flights in 2029, aiming to establish a city of about 1 million people by 2050. The SpaceX program is based on high-frequency production of Starship rockets, expanding operations through regular shipments of cargo, greenhouses, and recycling equipment. This strategy demands large-scale production and in-situ resource utilization from the earliest phases. NASA, by contrast, has outlined a more cautious, step-by-step approach. The agency expects its first crewed mission to Mars around 2035, focusing on rotating missions where each crew spends approximately 500 days on Mars before returning to Earth. NASA prioritizes scientific research and testing of life support technologies, with incremental progress enabled by the SLS rocket system, Orion spacecraft, and pre-positioned support stations in orbit. This approach is heavily focused on safety, return capability, and risk management. Beyond questions of feasibility, some debate the meaning and ethics of settling other planets. Some scientists argue that sending people to other worlds can be seen as a new form of territorial expansion, sometimes labeled as space colonialism. Critics contend that efforts and investment should focus on solving Earth's problems before venturing into interplanetary settlement. Leaders and thinkers such as Barack Obama and Martin Rees have noted that living on Mars may be no easier than recovering from a nuclear disaster on Earth. On the other hand, supporters believe expanding human presence in space is essential for the long-term survival of humanity. Developing technology for Mars missions could also bring scientific advances beneficial for life on Earth in the future. Given the current state of knowledge and technology, the practical realization of Mars settlements within the next 10 to 20 years remains an open question. Both SpaceX and NASA are pressing ahead with technology development, but the ultimate outcome will depend on progress, financial resources, and the ability to manage real-world risks. The prospect of sustainable, long-term habitation on Mars in the near future still faces many unresolved challenges. If you find these mysterious stories fascinating, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of our upcoming discoveries. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.